Hi. So, science begins with a quest. Every system has tried to answer this quest and begins with the origin of the universe. Modern science has brought together the understanding of physics and tried to lend the philosophy of physics and understanding through a language of mathematics, unlike most traditional sciences. In case of many, I would not be the right person to talk, but when we start studying Ayurveda, even there, the first is about origin of life, and simultaneously it talks about origin of the universe. Why simultaneously? Is because it states that the five element theory of Kshiti, Jal, Pavak, Gagan, Samir, which means earth, water, then fire, then air, then ether, is common to all the living and non living world. Considering that all these are common to both living and non living world, their origins must also be common. Another interesting aspect is that comes from Upanishads is that origin comes from a point where nothing was known, everything was oblivious. So, from that point, when you begin, the first thing that emerges is perhaps space or akash or ether. And from there, if that is the point of origin, the way the texts describe is from ether you have air, from air you have fire, from fire you have water, from water you have earth. These have to have their sources in space. What physics, what mathematics would say is that these origins are possible directly from space or through the steps, which means there would be different degrees of different physical phenomena that have to happen for such changes to occur. But since the new element brought up has its own completely unique properties, it is labeled as a separate element. Principally, at least three laws of physics should apply. These three laws being law of conservation of mass, law of conservation of energy, and law of conservation of charge. Also, what holds true here is that at any stage, if any of these is a particle, it has to have an antiparticle as well, and hence Pauli's exclusion principle and duality of matter comes into being. All these brought together, the simplest thing that helps establish this is Einstein's equation of mass energy equivalence. These theories and these principles brought together under the lens of quantum sciences lends credibility in terms of modern versions of science, and based on it, if we are interpreting a mathematical model to give a quantitative picture to these five elements and their origins, it is a postulate that can be trusted upon or can be worked upon And those postulates can give a sneak picture into how Vedic sciences or Vedas and their derived literature in terms of Upanishad, in terms of Puran, happen to look upon the origins of universe and elaborations on it. The simplest analogy that can be understood as a first step would be that the way you peel out layers of an onion and you reach the core. So these five elements be arranged in the form of an onion, the outermost being the earth and the innermost being space. This also means that at these different layers, there will be different particle sizes, energy remaining constant, mass remaining conserved in tandem with energy mass equation. The properties of these particles existing in duality, because all of these until these five elements would be assumed to have a neutral charge position. The element of them existing as particulate will also be mappable in terms of a wave form. So the existence of energy form and mass form together is what will quantify the existence of these different elements labeled as Mahabhoot in the context of Vedic literature. The varying degrees of wavelengths would not be differentiated strikingly, rather, there would be a phase of what in optics we call as umbra and penumbra, and there would be a phase where one or the other will overlap each other. This is how we can understand the formation of Panchamahabhoot. Based on Panchamahabhoot, they further discussions about the different elements of physical existence in terms of Vat, Pitta, and Kapha, and at the same time, the waveform of these Panchamahabhoot, lending the picture into Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Those will be a course of discussion at a later point. But as of now, how everything is made up of five elements, whether abstract, whether livid, is only and only possible to understand if we give the five elements a picture of wave and particle coexistence at the same time and follow the principles of the five elements under the lens of principles of conservation of mass, principles of conservation of energy, and principles of conservation of charge, all influenced by Einstein's mass energy equivalence. Thank you.